Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Hayden McGraw.
You should say welcome back to Real Talk Kinda.
You're right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Real Talk Kinda. I'm your host, Hayden McGraw, and I am joined by...
Your other host, Griffin Murray.
And today we're going to be talking about...
Back to the Future. Is this going to be my role? I introduce the movie?
Yeah, we could do that.
This is how
what I did last time?
This is how last time.
We could just do that every time. I don't know. I feel like we should start with Back to the Future. I don't know how to get into this.
I feel like we should start with Back to the Future.
So how do we get into this?
I don't know. There's no good way to transition.
No.
So it's just going to be like this. Back to the Future is, for some reason, one of my favorite movie franchises. I don't know when it started.
It hasn't been like a lifelong Back to the Future.
So I had to do a short podcast for one of my classes, and I did it about Back to the Future. And I had said that probably it was being alive during the Back to the Future day when they traveled to in 2015. Yeah. And there was a lot of talk about all that stuff then. I think that's probably when I came across it. Was there was like Back to the Future, Back to the Future. And then I watched it, and even then it wasn't like my top movie in my rotations. And then it was kind of fairly recently that it became like my favorite movie.
I remember being young, and me and my parents would watch movies a lot when I was younger. And I remember one day, this was probably around the same time of like watching Gremlins 2. They were like, let's watch Back to the Future. So I watched the first one, and I remember that pretty well. Watching that, I do now. Going back and watching the second one, I do a lot of those memories of like watching it came back, and I was like, okay, I remember this, and I happen to just remember like the weird scenes of just like random people talking, people that I don't even remember the name of, like not Doc and Marty talking, just like the parents or the other people. Like that's what I was like, okay, this is what stuck in my mind when I was younger for whatever reason. But I had only watched part 1 and part 2. My mom hates part 3. I even made a joke.
As everyone does?
Yeah, as everyone does, I guess. I even made a joke. I said, Mom, I got to watch a movie for the podcast. You want to watch it with me? She said, why? And I said, it's Back to the Future Part 3. And she goes, no. So, Mom, if you're listening to this, I doubt it. Shout out to you. You wouldn't watch it with me. But I did then do my podcast with Clay, Obsessed with Movies. I did another podcast a few years back. I don't think the episode's available anymore.
They're not. I looked.
They're not?
I was gonna rip the intro song as like a joke for our first episode, but
really?
They're not anywhere.
He wiped me, yeah. Damn.
Anyway.
That's sad. All right, well. But that's the first time I watched part 3, and it's actually not that bad. Like it's not. It's different. It's a Western. I'm not a huge fan of Western stuff. I hate cowboy stuff, unless it's Gremlins: The Wild Batch. But it's really not that bad. And I feel like even for at the time, they were still kind of making fun of it being a Western. It didn't feel fully like they were a yeehaw cowboy movie.
It was. I just had this conversation recently. So they wrote the first movie, and then whenever they got the green light for the second movie, they wrote the second and the third at the same time, and then they filmed them back to back. And they kind of set themselves up poorly, and I don't understand why they did it to themselves, but they wrote 2 so good. 2 was perfect. And then they wrote 3 as they were writing 2.
Yeah, they probably just didn't give it as much time.
But also, they set themselves up to where the only place they could go was somewhere where there were not cars invented. Because in the first movie, the issue was there's no plutonium, right? Or uranium, what was it? Plutonium? I don't know. So then he fixed that by getting the Mr. Fusion. In the second movie, there was no... Or what happened? There's someone with a starter.
No, because that was the third one. They couldn't start in the third movie, right?
In the first movie, they couldn't start it either.
They just never can start the car.
What was the problem in the second one? Nothing.
They were just there.
There was no problem with the car. And then in the third one, he jumps back and the fuel line breaks, so then there's no gas. So the only place they could go was a place where there wasn't cars.
Yeah.
Because everything else was already, like, the car was already, like, perfect, to say. Like,
well, like, when they did the first movie, they didn't intend to make a second and third movie. Right. That's what, like, the girl from the second movie is not the same from the first movie.
No.
But they had to reshoot the first part of the movie to replace that actress. and they basically did like a 1-to-1
It was
reshoot of that ending.
I watched them both back to back, and it was literally like
1-to-1.
you could see any shot that didn't have Jennifer in it, they reused that shot. But
Okay.
if it had her in it, they line by line reshot it like exactly.
That is pretty cool. I like to see like that's how.
Because I didn't actually know that it was two people until recently.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I always knew that they replaced actresses. I don't think if I watched them back to back, I would be able to tell though. Like you know what I mean? I knew there was some people that got replaced because
yeah.
they don't even bring back the dad. Like they don't bring back Marty's dad for the second movie or anything, because he dead.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
George McFly.
Oh, that's true.
George McFly.
I never thought of that.
Dead.
Yeah, he's
They
dead.
don't bring him back.
He's dead in the during the whole movie, and then he comes to life. And the
Yeah.
nuclear changes, and then he's not in the third one.
Yeah, he's not in the third one. Yeah.
So I guess something I also didn't realize. So I have that little diorama.
Yeah.
So each like time they jump to, the town square is different.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I was seeing is the town square. They had actually like I don't know refurbished it, or it wasn't the exact same way. The courthouse didn't even look the same way when they went to film the second one. So a lot of that money that went into the production of them was rebuilding the sets to look exactly the same as they looked in the original movie, because it was supposed to be, because it takes place right afterwards. Literally, the ending of the movie goes right into the second one.
It takes place right after and simultaneously because
Yeah.
when they go back to.
So it's like
55.
they spent a lot of money to make it look exactly the same, which I think is weird. I wonder when they did, because now it looks like the courthouse square, but they probably keep it that way now because Back to the Future is so popular that they're like, okay, this is so recognizable. But back then it was just probably something they built for the movie and then tore down, or.
So something I didn't realize until I looked it up was how many shows and movies actually use that lot for filming.
Other than Gremlins?
Other than Gremlins. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, so they did like Gremlins and Back to the Future, used it back to back years. Like what else?
Yeah.
Knight Rider.
Okay.
They used it. To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, really?
The 1962 movie of that. I don't know if there's a more recent one or not, but
I don't think so. I think that's the black and white one we watched in school.
yeah.
I should have been like, Gremlins!
Oh, Jingle All the Way.
Oh.
Never noticed that. Don't know.
I
where
wonder
that's-
what they use the square for. I wonder where, like,
Yeah.
if you could actually tell that it's there, or if it's just.
That's where I'm like, I don't know, because in this next one will really kind of hammer that point home, but I never realized it. The classic 2003 movie Cat in the Hat.
Really? the live action Cat in the
Yes.
Hat. No. Is that Mike Myers?
Yeah.
Wow. Mike
Um,
Myers. That's crazy. Austin Powers.
Goosebumps 2.
The new one?
Yeah.
The Jack Black one?
Yeah, 2018.
Jack Black was there?
And then the Ted TV show.
Oh, I actually did watch that. Oh, you know what? Now that I actually think about that, I feel like I do know. Like I saw that.
There's a bunch
Picture?
of stuff. Like
Oh my. Twilight Zone.
yeah, there's a Twilight Zone episode. The Incredible Hulk.
The TV show.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm gonna go to the clock tower."
I gotta help Marty get back to 1985. This is gonna be terrible because we are just.
It's okay. It's okay. This is the second episode.
But yeah, so a lot of different things used it. Psycho 2
Okay.
used it. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter for the movie's sake, but it was just something interesting
No,
that
that is-
like when
that is
looking at
really
different
cool.
stuff.
I've been there. Like I've stood there. Well, I guess I didn't stand there. I was on the tram. But it is pretty cool. It does look very much like Back to the Future, and I think that's what they're trying to keep it as
Yeah.
nowadays.
Which would make sense.
But I
mean,
wonder back then how much they cared about it. Like if it was always a courthouse square, or if it was just a lot that they changed for whatever they needed.
Right.
Which I think there's a gazebo in the middle there
There is now.
now. Yeah.
I think they use it for Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Because I saw like they did some commercial for like Coke or something, and it was like all the Gilmore Girl actors.
Oh, just
And I was like, that looks like
Back to the Future.
Hill Valley. Or you would say, that
Yeah.
looks like Kingston Falls.
That looks like Kingston Falls from the movie Gremlins. That's one thing of like after Back to the Future 3 there was an animated TV show. Have you ever watched
No.
You ever really watched that? No, I never have either.
I'm going to see some of it this Saturday, though.
Are you?
Yeah.
No, but they didn't do much with Back to the Future after
No.
the cartoon. I feel like it was popular back then. That's the thing. It's not like something that gained popularity later. Like it was popular at the time.
I mean, they have a musical now, which I haven't been a fan of.
Because they messed up the story.
The story is messed up in
Yeah.
like the second song, and I stopped listening to it because, I don't know, made me mad.
That's what I worry if they were ever do a Gremlins musical is they would just mess it up. They'd be like, we gotta save New York and not Kingston Falls, and I'd be like, I'm out of it. Because they don't save New York until the second movie.
Right, that'd be for Gremlins 2, the
Might as well-
musical.
So I think, okay, we're talking Back to the Future, so we should probably get into the Minecraft movie. We should probably
So
30
comparing
minutes for a Minecraft movie.
comparing Back to the Future to Minecraft, Garrett is the only one that I can remember, and like I can remember like Marty and Doc, but like I think back to the Minecraft movie, and the only one I can remember is Garrett and Steve.
So before we watched this podcast, Griffin said we're doing Back to the Future, so I ended up watching the Minecraft movie 3 times.
I watched the Minecraft movie work cut.
And so then I really want to say that like I was shocked that like Marty and Doc were not there in Minecraft. Like where were they?
I'm gonna leave that in because that was
it's
one of the
kinda funny,
biggest
but-
feedbacks that I had was, is this FNAF or Back to the Future or Minecraft?
Oh, I know. I wanted to point that out. I wanted to say that. You have a list, I feel like.
Where were we even at? The thing that got me down that track of researching was like in the 1985 version, it's a parking lot. And then in the 55, it's like it's like all grass.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, it's a big pond. I was like,
Yeah.
how did they do all this stuff? I mean, I'm guessing they filmed the beginning and the end at the same time, so they weren't...
So they probably filmed, like just, because they did make the town like normal and nice, I think, for the one portion for like the 50s or whatever. And then they had it like kind of trashed and they filmed the more recent scenes.
Yeah, the 50s was,
there.
It was like polished and nice.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that always makes me laugh is when they go by the school when they're in 55 and Marty's like, well, they really cleaned this place up nice. It looks brand new. And the joke is that it is brand new.
Yeah, no, that's... because he went back in time. Another thing, I guess I wouldn't point this out in a little Easter egg in Back to the Future. Doc actually has a little notebook, and on that notebook is Stripe from the movie Gremlins, which means in this universe, Gremlins came out, and they also, like, have seen it maybe. Like, it's never said specifically, but Doc could have off-screen went, man, I love Gremlins.
So my question with that is, did they film Gremlins in Hill Valley?
Now,
By that logic...
I feel, I've thought about this too, is Gremlins cannot possibly exist in that universe. But then at the same time, because they would see Hill Valley and go, oh, that's,
So,
did they film it there?
So by your logic, Gremlins is so fake that it exists as a movie inside of a movie.
Well, it already does in Gremlins 2. In Gremlins 2, they review the first Gremlins movie, and they kill a guy because he's reviewing it poorly.
Oh, okay.
So Gremlins already exists as a movie inside of itself. Gremlins is a movie and also
this
real.
is getting too deep.
It's very meta. It's insanely meta. Here's one thing I will say about Back to the Future, and here's what I will always like. I've loved how it does time travel. I hate how Marvel did it. It confuses me, I guess. The way Marvel does it confuses me because it creates different timelines. Everything you do, it branches off so that the original one still exists. I like the Back to the Future where if you do something, there's a butterfly effect. Like, you get with your mom and look.
So I think one of my favorite scenes is that reveal of the DeLorean in the first one. Because, like, up until that point, you don't really know what's going on. Marty gets to Twin Pines, and that trailer opens up, and it's, like, full of smoke, and it backs out, and it's just such a good reveal of that car, and it made it seem so much cooler than it actually is.
I will say, because now that you're saying that, I was like, I don't know if I have a favorite scene, but now that you say that, I do think I know my favorite scene. And it is when he's trying to convince Doc from the past that he is from the future. And it's like, oh, I don't believe you. I don't even remember what he says, but I remember I just rewatched this like a couple months ago, like just this clip on YouTube. And I just love the, doesn't believe him, closes the door in his face, say whatever he says. Then he comes back out the door and he's like, just his face, like just him like in shock, like being like, what did you just say?
Because he's like, I know you got that gash on your head. You fell and hit your head in your toilet, and that's when you got the idea for the flux capacitor. And then he opens the door and he's like, ooh.
Exactly, yes. That's exactly what I was talking about before the podcast, where I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. But when he says about the flux capacitor, and he's like, the flux capacitor, which means it worked. That's the whole, and that's what I like. It's so much in his head, because it means, first of all, he's built it, he thought about it, and it worked, because he actually was able to time travel. That's what I love about it. But that gets into the timeline thing.
Right after that, Doc and Marty make up their plan, and something that really sets the tone for the movies as a whole, and the kind of comedy that they use, is whenever they make their plan, and Doc goes, "We have to get you," and then he turns and looks straight into the camera and goes, "Back to the future." And then he kind of like looks a little bit off of the camera and like trails back over to Marty. And it's just so well done to where it's like, obviously he's making fun of the fact that he's saying the movie's title, but then they play it off so well as if he's just like overly dramatic person.
Yeah. I think Christopher Lloyd plays that role perfectly, and that's right before this, my brother asked why there wasn't another Back to the Future, and if he cared, I would have explained that nobody can match Christopher Lloyd's energy, in my opinion. He sounds like a crazy mad scientist, but he's not. Like he still feels grounded in his insane ideas.
Yeah.
He almost, I hate to compare it to this, but Rick and Morty, where Rick says some stupid stuff, and at the end of the day, it works, but it sounds stupid when he says it. Christopher Lloyd has this way of doing things where it sounds very smart, and then it also works, to where it's not like he's like a failed inventor. He's not doing stupid stuff. He's a very charismatic, energetic character who's also very smart and knows what they're doing.
So something that I think is really funny about his character, they had him wearing this like mask to like age him for whenever they're in 85. And I was looking into it today because again, one of those things I didn't think about until I thought about it like critically. In the start of the second movie, they go to 2015 and they get out of the car and he takes his mask off. Yeah. Because he's like, oh, I put this on to not scare you. I got a facelift. And I looked it up, and someone said that the reason they did that was because the effects they used whenever the first movie came out, you couldn't really see the lines in the old film. Yeah. But then in the new movie, with the new technology, you could.
That makes sense.
And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So they had this whole thing like, he's like, oh, I took 20 or 30 years off, because that's what they had aged him up 30 years-ish. And then Michael J. Fox looks 30 years older, and I'm like, nah, this doesn't make sense.
I wonder if it's...
everyone else looks more aged.
They didn't want to do the makeup like the whole time, because that's a lot of like days too.
And since he's still like a focal point.
Probably costs a lot of money. And also, I would say one of the biggest issues too is, when you talk about sequels, a lot of times actors need more money. And if we already talked about the fact that they had to rebuild sets, so I'm sure Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd cost a lot. I'm sure doing prosthetics would cost them way more at the time. So it's like, I do like, and that's what I like about older movies, is they had to work the limitations they had into the story. And I do like that a lot.
Right.
Like, that was just a limitation. Like, they didn't have well enough prosthetics like we do today, where you couldn't do that for a whole film.
Right.
No, I think the writing on at least the first two is like great. I'm not saying the third one's bad writing. I just do not remember it as well. I didn't revisit that one for this.
I mean, I said it last time. It's not the third movie's bad. It's just, if I was going to sit down and watch one Back to the Future movie, it's never going to be just 3.
But they did actually hang Michael J. Fox for that movie.
I remember that.
So, like, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I mean, I guess it's a bad thing.
Because it wasn't like
But, like...
the mechanism,
like, it was supposed to just, like, hold the back of his shirt, I assume, too, and it didn't. And so he was actually choking, and they were like, "Man, this guy's a great actor."
He's like, no,
Hey, maybe you should stop acting
I'm
now.
being hung.
No, I can't imagine how scary that would be, and especially them everybody just holding cameras and filming you, and that'd be
Dying.
That's insane. Yeah, I would not want to be in that position.
Another thing is just that every detail in the movie is so thought out. And, like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And then if something happens, it's because they're setting up either a joke or a plot point for later, which is like, duh. But I feel like a lot of movies now don't do that.
No.
Whenever Marty travels back for the first time, he lands in Old Man Peabody's barn.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he goes to drive out and wrecks one of the pine trees. And then later in the movie, Twin Pines Mall is renamed to Lone Pine Mall. So, like, they did that strictly for the fact to show that stuff was changing before Marty got back home. Like, everything happened for a reason and to set up, like, the subtle hints.
They paid attention to details, and that is really cool. That is really cool, yeah.
That was the first time that they had shown that the timeline, I guess, had changed. Because he went straight from the travel back to 85 to the mall. So he hadn't been home because then his parents and his siblings are all...
Did you know, like, the intro sequence of him playing the guitar and everything wasn't really him? Like, most of that was a stunt double.
Oh, really?
Like, if you don't see his face, it wasn't him. Because he, at the time, was filming for,
Stuart Little.
Oh, yeah, so at the time he was filming Stuart Little.
Family Ties.
So during the day, he would do Family Ties, and he would go and do Back to the Future during the night. And so in a lot of the scenes, you can see if he looks tired, he was recording all day. And then he also couldn't really do a lot of the day scenes, so they would have a stunt double come in and film those without filming his face, and then he would just fill in for all the times they needed his face.
That's funny. I had no idea. In the second movie, like, I watched that scene where he goes around the town square, and I had noticed some things that were kind of funny. So they're advertising that they're on Jaws 19, which they only made 4 Jaws movies. But the tagline for Jaws 19 is, "This time it's really, really personal," which is from Jaws 4.
Yeah.
And it's directed by
Spielberg?
Steven Spielberg's son, Max.
Oh, his real son.
His real son, yeah. It's credited as directed by his real son.
Yeah, that is really cool. They did in 2015. Universal put out a thing, as like a joke of all the different Jaws.
That came up when I was looking up how many Jaws movies they actually made. Because I was like, how close did they get to 19? And it was 4. But then that video came up as like.
But after the first one, it was no longer Spielberg. So I feel like that's what he was partly making fun of, how many Jaws movies they kept making after he had said he was done with them.
But then I want to say it's probably VHSs for the first 2 Jaws movies were in the antique shop where he buys the sports almanac.
That's cool.
As well as Animal House.
In the first movie?
Second movie.
In the second movie? Okay.
When they're in 2015.
Yeah, no, I do remember the Jaws 19 part from being younger. I remember my dad being like, "You're gonna love something in this movie."
And that's like, I remember that, but then it wasn't until like watched for the details and I was like, oh, they used the tagline from Jaws 4, but added really, really, in my head at least, implying that one of the other Jaws movies would have been, it's really personal this time. And they just kept adding reallys. I don't know if that's a joke. That's how I took the joke, was that they got so bored or like tired of making...
I think one of my favorite things about that movie, or I guess about 2015, since we were talking about that's when you got into it, is at that time, the world did not go that direction. That was not the future that the world actually went into, And so they made a thing that shows Doc going back and changing it so that our 2015 wasn't that. Because if our 2015 was that, the world would have ended. We eventually drove ourselves to extinction. So to make it canonical, I think it was on like this 98 show or something. He like supposedly went back and stopped our timeline from getting like the hoverboards and getting Jaws 19. And although the holographic thing at a movie theater would be insane, I think that would save theaters. Like if you're walking by and, let's say a giant creeper comes up and blows up right outside the theater.
Or like a big gremlin.
If a big gremlin comes hatching outside of a theater, I'm already inside the theater watching Gremlins.
Right.
But I'm taking pictures of it afterwards. Like, that's epic.
So, another thing I thought was funny was in the Cafe 80s, the 2 kids that turn on the Wild Gunman game, Have you ever seen what they're wearing? Have you ever looked at what the kids wear as hats in the 2015 section of the movie?
The big shiny hats?
No, not Marty's.
Oh.
Any like
No.
the one the one kid is wearing a strainer.
Oh, like with holes in it?
Yeah,
Like
with
with spaghetti.
Yeah, and it's just painted green.
Hey, it's a good look. I love how that's what they thought the future was gonna be. Kids are gonna be like strainers or the new hat style. Oh no!
It's just,
what is that other kid's hat, bro?
It's just a strainer, like a pasta strainer. And then there's like the girl who has the hoverboard. I probably won't show it in this clip, but she has on something just as like random and weird. But it's like it's just funny the things they thought like who made that, and they were like, this is
This is the future, you know. And then they had to get back to that.
Yeah. When they're in 2015, they go to Marty's house, and there's his son, who's played by Michael J. Fox. Right?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sure. Yes. His son is played by Michael J. Fox. Yes.
Do you know who plays his daughter?
Michael J. Fox?
It's Michael J. Fox. Like,
Hold on,
actually.
let me look at this.
I found that out today, because I was like, that doesn't look like the girl who plays Jennifer, and it is Michael J. Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
No, I looked up Michael J. Fox kids, and it showed me his real children.
Oh, no. You need to look up, like, Marty McFly kids. Yeah. Marlene.
Oh.
That's Michael J.
That's
Fox.
Michael J. Fox? That's
Yeah.
insane.
So he was, in these scenes of his house, he was 3 people. Because he was himself as the 2015 version.
Real, yeah.
His son and his daughter.
That's, I mean, you know what? That's talent right there. I can't say it's not.
And I know that they probably just used, oh, here you go, that really looks like him.
Can I say I hate how Biff looks?
In which
old
one?
Biff?
Oh, like, yeah.
Like, he just looks unnaturally old, and it drives me a little nuts.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
It's scary. It's always kind of like unnerved me.
Oh, okay, so we went to that convention, GalaxyCon.
Yeah.
And I sat in the DeLorean.
Yes, yeah, you did.
So.
$70,000, right?
Yeah, I spent $70,000 in the DeLorean.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, you said not to tell your parents.
Yeah, I said not telling anybody.
Oh, okay.
So.
You didn't say it was 80,000. Which is what it really was.
So you saw how I fit in that car, right?
Yes, correct.
There's
not a lot of room in there, and I don't think I would have, like, been able to fit in there. The way he had your knee in there had me nervous because it's like there's no way any person's getting their knee in there.
He told me it doesn't even matter. This guy, he travels with the musical, and he has this DeLorean that is movie accurate, and it's
really cool.
It's
super cool.
It was on like a pedestal, so it was like kind of like angled up, and the wheels were in like
it looked like it was flying.
Like it looked really good, and it was like
because it was Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
design.
But he had me get in it kind of weird, and I feel like I looked like an idiot.
Well, the way you got in it, then he was like telling you to put your knees over, and I was like, you can't.
It was like he was telling me to break my leg to get in the car.
And I was like, he looked like he needed to step back out to get in, but the guy was just like, no, keep going. And I'm like, he cannot.
I cannot.
But
anyway, so, I mean, I am, 6 foot?
Yeah, no.
Like, there was not a lot of room in that car. In Back to the Future 2, whenever they go back to 1985 at the end, or in the middle, actually, in the car, there is Doc, Marty, Jennifer, and Einstein. How? How do you get 3 adults and a dog in a DeLorean?
And the dog's not a small dog either. It's I don't know the
like
breed. It's
like
it's a big dog. It's probably as big as Moki.
Probably 40 pounds. But then also, like, I mean, we had that car show in town, and someone brought a DeLorean, and even without all the stuff in it, you couldn't fit 3 people in the front seat, let alone another dog. Or a dog.
Is there back seats? Yeah, there's back seats in that car. No, there's not. So where the hell was Jennifer at? She's just sitting in the middle?
She sits on Marty's lap.
But she's like in the middle. Oh, I guess.
Yeah, like
okay,
she's like it across.
Well, because in my head, you know, you always see her in the middle, but it's like
Right.
I always think the middle seat, but it's like no, there's not a middle
No,
seat
there's
in
not.
there.
You're right.
She's sitting right in front of the flux capacitor.
So yeah, basically the most unrealistic thing about this movie is that
They're
you could
not fitting
fit
in the
3
car.
people in a DeLorean.
Well, how tall are Michael J. Fox and
it doesn't even
Christopher Lloyd?
it doesn't even matter. Christopher Lloyd's tall.
He's tall. That's what I'm saying. I did see for at the time, because at one point he goes, "You built a time machine in a DeLorean." The DeLoreans were not a very like loved car at the time. Now they are
Right.
because of Back to the Future.
Right.
But it was like it was a joke that he built it in a DeLorean. It was a shitty, unreliable car. Apparently, I don't know anything about cars, but this is what I've heard. So it is kind of funny now too to think that like people did not like DeLoreans, and I'm sure after that movie, everybody was like, "Let's get one."
Well, I mean, think of it in the terms like the Cybertruck, which I mean, it's way cooler. It has the gull wing doors, and think about
Does not time travel though.
in the early '80s, you're gonna put out a car that is stainless steel on the outside and is all angular like that.
Yeah,
it's like
no,
that's not
pretty...
gonna go across very well.
No. I mean, even the Cybertruck's pretty 50-50 with people. Where
Yeah.
you either love it or you like hate it. Like my mom hates that thing.
Yeah, I can't wait till Back to the Future 4 when he's like, "You built a time machine out of a Cybertruck?"
And he's like, "Morty, we gotta get to the Cybertruck." I think. Did I watch the wrong thing?
I think you did.
I watched like 7 seasons of Rick and Morty.
Oh
For
no,
this.
you're supposed to watch 2 movies of Back to the Future.
Oh shit.
One of the things that drove me crazy is that at the start of the first movie, second movie,
Okay.
they're like about to go on their date to the pond or lake or what, a lake, not a pond. And then Doc comes back and he's like, "We got to go right now."
Well, because he has to save his kid.
They had to leave 1985 right that second to go to 2015. Doc, I don't understand the urgency.
He said, "Marty." Well, see, because he does it at the end of the first movie, and then they fly off. And I think part of that was probably to build suspense for a movie they weren't planning
Right.
on making. But then for the second movie, now it's like, he's probably like, "Doc." Well, he even is like, "Doc, what?" Like,
Yeah, he's like,
it's
"No,
your kids.
I would have. I think it would have been even more Back to the Future of them if they would have had like a hard cut to a black screen that's like 1 week later, and then they went like
that would be pretty.
like it would have been a good little like joke.
I need to get time to repair, you know? I'm surprised how quickly he jumped back in, considering he just went, you know, to the past, you know, met his mom, got a little harassed by his mother. I mean, would you say he nearly died because he was going to disappear? I would count that as nearly dying.
I mean, yeah.
So, and then he like immediately just go like, no, you would have to beg me. I don't care about my kids.
The whole trilogy takes place over like 2 days.
Like you're telling me, and now I know how time works. So I know if I go and do stuff in the future, it affects the past, right?
The only reason that it affected the past was because Biff took the almanac back to 55.
Okay.
Because going into the future wouldn't affect the past. Going in the past affects the future.
Yeah, but if they use things in the future,
then it wouldn't affect the past.
Because they can do it, because they're also in that. You know,
the only reason the past
because they also exist
changed is because Biff took the almanac back to 55 and gave it to himself.
You're right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, it makes sense now.
So in my head, thinking, okay, he says, so that makes it even worse. He goes, "Your kids are, I don't care. They're not even born yet."
Right.
And I could also just go, okay, if my kids are gonna have this horrible thing, then I just won't have kids.
Or
But
like,
you now just told me that.
Or like, oh, I have 30 years to figure it out. Which,
Exactly.
I mean, I guess the only thing that I can possibly... No, because that wasn't even his intention. Because at the end, whenever they don't hit the Rolls Royce. But the only reason they found out about that was because Jennifer passed out and went home and then heard them talking about it. So that wasn't even the intention. So there's no reason to go back right then.
No, yeah. So basically, big plot hole.
Right. In this time travel movie, some things aren't realistic.
Yeah. I mean, personally, would you really save the clock tower?
No.
No. But they do.
What's funny is that whenever they jump to 2015, the clock tower is still broken.
But it shouldn't be.
They never address it. It's like you can see it's still like burnt up at the top, like where the lightning struck, like on the clock face itself. Like
Yeah,
they never fixed it.
They never fixed it. You know, maybe it's a historical thing at that point. But it shouldn't have been
No,
because it
because it doesn't matter anymore. And Goldie was gonna replace it.
Huh. All right.
The last thing that I have on here before time travel rules.
That'd be fun.
What?
It's gonna be fun. The time travel rules.
It's gonna be fun. We're already at 45 minutes. It's gonna be another hour of time travel rules.
Time travel.
So, this is in the second movie, but much like in the first movie, when Doc turns straight into the camera and says, "We gotta go back to the future," in the second movie, they figure out like what happened and how the timeline changed, and Marty goes up to Doc and says, "You're not gonna believe it. We gotta go back to 1955." And Doc turns the camera and goes, "I don't believe it." And it's just like, it's so like formulated that it's the comedy that I love, which just like
Restating the.
it's just like, yeah.
But it doesn't, because in universe he didn't turn to a camera and say that.
He just turned
He
to
turned to
nothing.
and did it. And I also like that joke, and I did it after I watched The Office for a while. I love doing the Jim stare into random objects because to me in my head I could imagine a camera there, but to everybody else I just look like a sociopath.
Well,
Oh, okay.
well, for what?
I thought you were gonna say something, but it was that I am a sociopath.
That wasn't even the joke, but that's funny. For Jim, there was a camera.
Correct,
Because
but
the
in
whole
real,
thing is a documentary.
but for me, there's not.
Oh, so you see it as just like a normal sitcom?
So like if I were, so here's me doing it in real life.
right.
There's
okay.
no camera there.
There's no camera.
That's what
there.
I'm saying. He's doing in his universe. He's staring at something random and pretending like it's a camera, like he's staring into a camera.
in universe, there were cameras.
In The Office,
Yeah.
not in Back to the Future.
No, but why'd you bring up Jim?
So what
then?
I'm saying is, you know how
I'm
Jim did
saying
that? You know how Jim did that? I
Jim did
forgot.
that to
This guy
in-universe
loves The
camera.
Office. It's just like young Sheldon.
We cannot bring up young Sheldon every episode of this podcast.
Callie actually said she would like it to be brought up more. She said you guys didn't talk about young
Okay.
Sheldon enough.
We'll talk about a little bit of young Sheldon.
But
Meemaw is in Ghostbusters.
she is. We do need to touch upon
That's
that.
that's all I got now.
Because we got McKenna Grace too.
Teaser for the Ghostbusters episode. Yeah, and McKenna
That's gonna be
Grace.
sick.
Teaser.
And she's in FNAF, so now it's
Yeah.
just gonna be the merge episode of
Young
everything.
Sheldon.
Young Sheldon.
Young
X
Sheldon
Five Nights
X
at-
Ghostbusters teaser.
That'd be insane.
Oh shit.
What were we just talking about back to the future?
Jimming the camera.
The camera. So you know how Jim looks in the camera. I would look at a fake camera, just like Doc in that universe was looking at a camera that's not there. You're cutting all this out. I'm not explaining it.
But yeah, just those moments that, I mean, obviously everything is formulated because it's a scripted movie, but it's like where you can tell that it's like the joke is that he's like, "You're not gonna believe it," but this, it's like, well, I
wonder-
don't believe it.
Was there a lot of improv? Do you know?
I don't know. I can Google it.
But both of them seem like they'd be very improv people. But then I also could see it being, because Spielberg was still involved in 2 and 3, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's a very to the script person because I mean, that's just how he is.
Oh, I put improve.
And I was like, this has nothing to do with what you typed
Yeah,
in.
how do you-
It's like it was seen as a better movie.
Oh, it was not improvised.
So it wasn't improvised. It was very scripted. It was to the books. But that is pretty cool though. It is. I wonder if they do have any like little bits of scenes, or if like even that was like what we were just talking about, the looking at the camera. If that was intended, like that was scripted.
Right. They feel so exaggerated that I can't imagine they were improv.
Here's a question I had for you because
I have
I
an
feel we're
answer.
gonna have very different answers, very different opinions. Have you ever wanted to take a skateboard and ride it with on the back of a truck, like hold on to the back of a
Oh,
truck and ride it?
everyone's wanted to.
I think that's horribly
Really?
stupid. I feel like that would be so dangerous, and I'd fall off and scrape the fuck
That's
out of my legs. I was watching him do that yesterday, and I was not like actually, because he hasn't done it in years. It was just for the
Right.
movie. But I was saying that as if he was like down the street.
Right, yeah.
But I would never do that, ever. Like that sounds so scary to me. Even if you're driving slow, I get it. But I feel like the skateboard would slip and you would fall off and hurt yourself. I would find it very hard. I would go, this is like Back to the Future, and then I'd be done. I'm not doing that for very long.
I think
I'm
that's
terrified of that.
Normally how it goes is you fall and
That's
hurt yourself.
Why would you want that?
I don't know. It seems fun. You go fast.
Marty the Fly.
So
Time travel?
I'm taking over. I'm
Okay.
taking over.
Do it.
Time travel rules. They do not. I don't. It's my position flipped twice while I watched the movie, because at first I was like, this makes sense, and then I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. The part that made me start to question the logic of it was whenever the timeline changed. So Marty never went back in time then, because if the events were Biff got rich from the almanac.
You talking the first movie or second movie?
I'm talking second movie.
Okay.
So if Biff got rich from the almanac, then killed George, Marty would have never traveled back in time. And if he would have, then it would have been, like, in my head, that he wouldn't have gone back in time. So then how would Biff have gotten the almanac? It's like, it just all kind of crumbles onto itself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, the more that I thought about it, the more that I was like, how does this actually...
It does, and so like in the Marvel universe, everything creates a branch timeline. Everything's its own separate entity in its timeline. Where, to me, now that you're kind of saying it, it does kind of fall apart a little bit. But to me, I was like, I like that everything's one exact timeline. But then you do have that issue of the crossover between you and yourself in those.
And they
worlds.
only do that in Back to the Future. They only do that once, and that was whenever they go back to 55.
When
also,
they see themselves at the mall.
What?
At the mall?
At the school in 55.
Oh.
At the school, and then in 85 at the mall. That is something in whenever they go back to Biff gets laid out by George, and Marty runs up and grabs the almanac, and then there's that guy, and he's like, he just stole that guy's wallet, and then he turns to the camera again, but into the crowd of people that are standing around Biff, and he goes, I think he just stole that guy's wallet. And then he does the same thing whenever Biff wakes up, and he's like, where did Calvin Klein go? And he's like, oh, that way. And he goes, I think he stole your wallet. And then he turns back to the camera again, and he goes, I think he stole that guy's wallet. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just makes, it's like...
Well, that's what, one thing I did see is in that scene where Marty punches Biff in the face, that is actually footage of Eric Stoltz, Marty, because he was taller, so they used him as the one that punches Biff. But that's like one of the ones they didn't refilm. One of the only moments you can see his version of Marty McFly. In the first movie, when they're in the little soda shop place.
Oh, where he trips him?
Does he punch him?
I didn't think he actually punched him. Oh, or is it when he pulls out one of those classic, hey guys, what's that?
I don't remember.
I think it's so funny because they use that so many times to get them out of the position. Like, they'll be like, back to the corner, and then they'll just have Marty pull out a classic. What's that over there?
Well, that's part
and
of
it always works.
I also think it's so weird because when you look at Marty, I feel like he kind of inspired so many kids. Like, I'm sure people try to be like him, and you even see that in like media, like The Simpsons. I feel like has made fun of that, like that cool kid kind of persona that he had at the time. But now you look back on it, and I'm like, God, he is cringe. Like that's it. He feels like he's an adult trying to be young. But he is young. Like,
right.
It's weird.
What a weirdo.
Yeah. I'm not as educated on this subject as I was Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Gremlins episode is going to be more like Gremlins episodes.
It's going to be me just talking about Gremlins and Griffin. So, basically what this episode was, where Griffin says, remember this? And I go, it'll be the reverse.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Hayden talking, a lot of me going,
remember when the brain gremlin grabbed the serum off the table?
Mm-hmm. And then he flies out the window?
Actually, in the background of that scene, you can see a piranha from the movie. You can't. That's a lie. I made that up.
Okay. Well, I think that's where we're going to call it then before we get down the
old gremlin shoot.
The old gremlin shoot.
Thank you guys all for tuning in to Real Talk Kind of. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know. We do appreciate all the feedback. We try to talk a little bit less about Minecraft, talk a little bit more about Back to the Future this time. The issue is... now you see the issue is when we try to just talk about one movie and you don't let us talk about Minecraft, episodes don't even reach an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
Because after we edit this, it's going to be under an hour, and all because we couldn't talk about Minecraft.
Yeah, so the people who complained...
we hope you're happy.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed ruining the podcast,
yeah.
To be honest.
You took Real Talk Kinda, in parentheses, comparing movies to Minecraft movie, and turned it into Real Talk Kinda with no Minecraft. So we hope you're happy.
Yeah, no, like literally. You know what, actually, let's talk about this real quick. Minecraft was one of the best movies ever created. No, I'm just kidding. Callie was upset that she got scrubbed from existence, so shout out to Callie. I think that's about all we got.
Why did Callie get scrubbed from existence?
Because we said the only people that are going to listen is our family. And so she was upset that we didn't say she would. Thank you guys all for watching. If you guys have actually any feedback, we would genuinely love to hear it. We want to make the best podcast possible. We really do care about this. We really want to try. I'm hoping to get a few episodes out before I really start trying to promote things, just so that people have a variety of things to listen to. If they don't like Five Nights at Freddy's, they have this episode. If they don't like this episode, they have, whatever we talk about next week. Maybe Gremlins, maybe something else. I'm not sure. Shrek.
It'll probably be Gremlins.
Yeah, it'll probably be Gremlins.
We're going back and forth picking with who gets to pick what we talk about.
Yeah.
Next week is Hayden's week. It's probably gonna be Gremlins.
And also, if you guys have any feedback on the editing style, if you guys want this faster paced, you want it slower paced, that would also help us a lot, I think. Because when I was editing it, I found a hard time of knowing, am I yapping too much or am I not yapping enough?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, to yap or not to yap?
Yes, exactly.
That's the question.
If you guys have any movie suggestions, you have things you enjoy, you think we would enjoy, please leave them down below. We would love to hear it from you.
And follow us on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Follow us on Instagram.
I don't know how you found this without going through the Instagram, but follow it.
If we do well enough, we'll start doing live shows. We'll sell tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
It's all 5 people.
Yep.
Hey, if we make money, we make money.
We'll sit up inside a Famous Monster Pizza.
I'll sign autographs if anybody wants. We'll
anything. Sell autographs. We should start a little like online store with just like dumb stuff, like just like autographed pieces of paper of us.
We sell just like random Funko Pops that we don't want anymore.
We sign them.
Signed Agatha Harkness Funko
Pop. not signed by Catherine Hahn. Signed by Hayden and Griffin from Real Talk Kinda. Anyway.
That'd be funny as hell. Star-Lord has Black Panther signed Funko Pop by Griffin. Sells for $5.
I think the only other thing that I was gonna kind of ask whoever watches this to this far, we really should put these things at the beginning because.
Oh no, they listen all the way through. They love us.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I looked at the retention. It's like
I chose not to look.
It's like 10 seconds. It's like.
No, we haven't won them over yet.
So I guess the last thing I kind of wanted to ask was, for those who do listen this far, do you want this to be like, do you enjoy just the movie talk, or like I feel like last time we did more kind of personal like.
So I feel like this episode we stuck to the movie. Last time we kind of went off and talked about ourselves more.
I think we need to come into these less prepared. Yeah.
Because
I came in super like prepped with stuff I want to talk about, and then it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We're still working. This is only the second episode. If this one sucked, please let us know. Please just be real. We can cover. My thing too is it's never like we can never cover a movie again. We could always come back to the Future. We could always talk about it again. So it's like if you guys don't like an episode, let us know. We will make sure the next one is better for you guys because we care so goddamn much about you.
We will scrub that episode from existence.
We will.
You will
just
never
like
even know what happened.
Obsessed with movies, scrubbed from existence. Absolutely.
Yeah, obsessed with what? Don't even know because
obsessed with nothing.
Doesn't exist.
Just kidding. It was a very good podcast. I did enjoy doing it. I won't lie.
Obsessed with nothing. With all that being said.
Thank
you, and we'll see you next time on
Real Talk Kinda.